Arkham Asylum was a disastrous mess with numerous dead, but Gotham is the kind of city that's always about going bigger. So here we are in Arkham City for an even bigger mess. Hiya friends, it's Shenanigoon, your imprisoned rat gamer, and we're in Arkham City to continue the Arkham One Life Challenge. For those of you who don't know, or just love reminders, this challenge is to beat all 4 Arkham games with only 1 life shared between them. If I die at all, I have to restart in Arkham Origins, the chronological first game of the series. This is game 3 of 4, so the stakes are pretty high. To help you judge me for my failures, here's a handy hit counter that only resets should I die. The last 2 games have put me at 26 hits so far, with a spoiler warning to all and hard difficulty on. Let's go get incarcerated. The game starts off just as you'd expect a Batman game to start, as Catwoman. She only stays long enough to beat up one group before we get to Batman being electrocuted. Hugo Strange, the mysterious man who runs this prison, has captured Bruce and is trying to get me to make eye contact with him, something I'm much too nervous to do. Failing that, he releases me into the prison, and Bruce proves he can instant take down enemies whenever he wants. He just chooses not to. When Penguin ambushes me, Bruce breaks free and takes down all his men in the exact same way that Batman fights. Coincidence, I'm sure. Also a sure coincidence that in the small portion of time that Bruce Wayne enters the prison, beats up a bunch of goons, and vanishes, now Batman's suddenly here. I guess the benefit of being rich is calling Batman for help. I need Catwoman's help, but she's tied up at the moment with Two-Face. It's not hard to free her even though I get shot, but thankfully that's a scripted shot that doesn't actually hurt my health bar. Everyone knows bullets don't hurt you if you're trading one-liners with your enemy. How else would superheroes survive so much? Sometimes you don't even need one-liners to be immune to damage, as I prove here with Harvey, as all my batarangs bounce off his body. Joker tried to snipe Catwoman, so I track him to the nearby church using the power of mathematics. See, math must be cool if Batman uses it, right? At the church, Harley Quinn shows off her acrobatics, dodging all my batarangs. It's quite impressive, but perhaps I should get to saving the hostages here. Maybe. Rescuing them, I find the remote-controlled sniper and chuck myself out the window before it all explodes. There weren't any explosives or anything. Batman is just that cool that when he jumps out of things, they explode. Costs a ton to fix, but it's worth it for the coolness effect. Tracking down the Joker, I'm confronted by Mr. Hammer. This fight can be annoying if I try to counter anyone, as Mr. Hammer would just hit me anyways. So I rely on lots of dodging, batarangs, some electricity, and my favorite thing of all, the instant batarang takedown that will KO anyone laying on the ground. This makes for an easy fight, and I confront the Joker. Except, he's dead. Well, shucks. There goes my great boss fight. Oh no, wait, Joker's alive and ambushing me. Yay! I mean, oh no! While Batman takes a nap from that, we revisit Catwoman. Selina here is setting up to break into the prison's vault, where they keep all the loot they confiscated from criminals. To get in, I need Poison Ivy's help, but she's not in the helping mood. More like the hurting mood, so I'm forced to battle my way through several waves of enemies while dodging her blasts. Catwoman has far less gadgets, a way worse dodge, and far less armor should I take damage, so the times I play as her are by far the riskiest. Thankfully, nothing goes wrong unless you count getting captured by Ivy, which I suppose is a pretty bad thing. Not my problem though, as I find myself back as Batman at the mercy of the Joker. Turns out Joker here is pretty sick, the dying kind of sick, after injecting himself with the Titan formula back at the Asylum. That's the good news. Bad news, he put his blood in me, and I'm not the biggest fan of unasked for blood donations. I'm picky like that. He not only put it in me, but tons of Gothamites across the city, because no one bothered to check whether the mysterious huge blood donations were toxic or not. Nope, just started giving them away to a ton of people. Nice one, Gotham Healthcare. Now I have to get the cure from Mr. Freeze, but of course he's been captured by the Penguin because it can't be too easy. Taking down Penguin's goons is simple, but when I track them back to the museum where Penguin is hiding out, I take my first hit of the game. I counted on them being too scared to respond quickly, but I honestly should have known better. Surprising the goons activates their fight or flight, and everyone knows penguins are a flightless bird. Breaking into the museum is easy, but I quickly find my way blocked by a large crowd of wannabe goons. Don't let the numbers fool you. This fight is incredibly simple, and most of the enemies go down very fast. It's honestly just an excuse to be able to let out my full range of gadgets, and with the power of critical strikes, which do double the damage, it's over before you know it. But of course, it can't be too easy, as now Penguin unleashes a Titan monster on me. These things were incredibly simple in Asylum with the old batarang and dodge trick, but they've learned common sense. While I can still ride one to do my bidding, I find trouble as they will run me over as I do instant takedowns. Very rude. Even normal thugs know to be polite and just watch me break the bones of their friends. I should note the smart thing would be to put my upgrades into extra health, but I focus all my upgrades on improving my combat abilities and gadgets. A good offensive and all that, right? That's called being cocky and can only end badly. With the thugs down, I find the Penguin freezing a bunch of undercover cops. I gotta say, these cops would have better luck undercover if they didn't wear shirts that tell people they're cops. It's just a thought. When I finally track down Mr. Freeze, he's being guarded by Mr. Sickle, the brother to Mr. Hammer. This fight goes less well when old instincts kick in and I counter right next to him. Thankfully, getting hit by a giant sickle does surprisingly little damage, something I never wanted to find out firsthand. Having rescued Freeze, I had to take down the Penguin with the use of an override for the freeze gun. I teach him how to fly, which surprisingly doesn't knock him out, but does trigger the next boss fight. Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday, has woken up. He's a huge muscular zombie that Penguin keeps chained down here because, of course, that's life, right? 1 second you're punching a sadist crime lord off a table, the next you're engaged in a fight with a giant zombie named after an old obscure nursery rhyme. Grundy's entire fight relies on dodging his chain strikes while using explosive gel to blow up the generators powering him. A pretty simple idea, and at first things go pretty well. Sadly, as simple as the fight is, I'm even more simple-minded. I run into a flame streak and even get grabbed by Grundy. Thankfully, he doesn't try to crush me or anything, just throws me away. But it still hurts. A few more explosions later, and Grundy goes down. He's a very fast boss to beat, but still plenty of time to get hit. Penguin comes on down to fire rockets at me instead of, staying up there to shoot rockets at me, which works for me. When I do take a rocket to the face, I'm Batman, so of course the rocket dies and I give Penguin the beating he rightfully earned. Back with Mr. Freeze, I'm told the cure can't be created without a certain enzyme that has to have been bonded with a human host for decades. By Alfred's serving plate. After all that, there's no hope? It's not like Batman knows a supervillain that happens to have that exact enzyme in his blood and has been exposed to it for centuries. He does. Ra's al Ghul, you say? Well, it's not like even if he has the right blood, that he can be found anywhere conveniently close by. What's this? There just happens to be one of his fanatics locked up by the Penguin right next to where we're speaking? Well, I'll be. I had no idea Batman's utility belt held such amazing coincidences. Tracking the assassin underground, Batman is suddenly overcome by the sickness inflicted by the Joker's toxic blood. What little health I have normally is now even less so as I journey through the underground, being extra careful when subduing armed Joker guards and sword-wielding assassins. Just in time, I catch up with the assassins. Talia al Ghul, the daughter of Ra's, appears and calls off her women before they can make a bat kebab. Talia loves Batman, as we all do, so she's willing to help save him if he partakes in the demon trials to be the new leader of their little cult. Batman gulps down a mysterious liquid which restores me to full health and also provides a fun hallucination. You know it can't be real when it's actually daytime in an Arkham game. It's a real simple gliding section, and when I finish, I'm brought before Ra's al Ghul himself. Old Ra's here ain't doing so good and would like Batman to kill him, but these Arkham games wouldn't exist if Batman killed his rogues gallery, and there's no fun in that. Ra's isn't the biggest fan of that and decides to go cool down in a nice swim, which does wonders for his complexion, but not so much for his mood. I'm dragged back into my delusions for a boss fight with Ra's. While it's nice to finally see the sun again, the fight is quite easy. The sand assassins provide little threat, and when Ra's goes full drama king and becomes the Sandman, I find shooting him with electricity is an easy fix. You're supposed to time it carefully, but I find spamming the heck out of it is far more effective, and Ra's goes down before I know it. I honestly was surprised when the fight ended as I expected much more from him. I conk him on the back of his head with a batarang, steal some of his blood, and head out. I think whatever I drank is still affecting me though, as the doors seem to be missing. I can still interact with them, but I can't see them, only past them. Probably not a good sign, but like every other problem in life, better to just ignore it and hope it goes away. I decide this is a good point to take a break and come back in a couple hours to finish the game. The only problem with this is coming back in, I go into autopilot mode. Leaving my brain in autopilot mode is great for doing dishes with Alfred or waxing the old Batmobile. It's far less great when dealing with a room full of armed thugs, and I soon find myself visiting the great Joker in the sky. Wow. Within 1 minute of hopping back into the game, and I'm dead. That 1 minute will cost me at least 7 hours as I head back into Arkham Origins and Asylum. I tear through the games as fast as I can, which is a fantastic way to rack up plenty of hits, ending Origins at 13 and bringing it all the way to 30 by the time I finish Asylum. It isn't a pretty win, but it is a win. My second run in Arkham City starts off quite strange when I go to take down Two-Face. His men fall with ease, and when the scripted gunshot goes off, the usual cinematic gets cut off by a game over screen. Looking back at the moment when I got shot, the sheer power of the bullet sent me flying out of the building, convincing the game I had abandoned Catwoman to die. I don't know what kind of gun Two-Face is packing, but wow, he should use that more often. Being it was a glitch game over, it doesn't count against the challenge, and I'm able to continue on to get shot again, this time without leaving reality behind. I admit, even though I shouldn't be, I'm rather reckless throughout this run, and I nearly die facing Grundy again. I barely pull through in this fight, and the same goes for Ra's fight. Ra's gave me zero trouble the first time around, but this has been the run of little skill as I take plenty of hits. I keep failing to focus, and mistakes that were always simple to avoid become commonplace. Perhaps playing this Arkham challenge for over a month, nearly non-stop, and beating Arkham Origins 13 times now can drive even me a tad bit batty. But it builds character, right? There's no trouble from the gunman that killed me before, as I'm not nearly as reckless as the first time. Making it back to Mr. Freeze, I'm forced to curse his sudden but inevitable betrayal as he attacks me. I honestly didn't expect any damage from Freeze, but I was plenty mistaken as I had no idea that when he loses me long enough, he lets loose seeker drones that plow right into me. Perhaps I should have destroyed them faster and not just stared at the pretty lights. Otherwise, Freeze is an easy but very enjoyable boss as I use every stealth tactic in the book to ambush him. He may learn after every move, but if there's one thing I've learned in life, it's that there's an infinite amount of ways to screw up. Unfortunately, while I was imparting Freeze with this wisdom, Harley had broken in and stolen the cure. Racing the steel mill, I discovered Joker waiting for me, good as new. Little odd that he has no bones in detective mode, but it's probably best not to give that a second thought. Finally getting to take Joker on in a real fight after all these games is great, but he goes down super easy. I'm really not sure what I was expecting. He's not out of the fight though, calling a bunch of henchmen including Mr. Hammer and another Titan monster along with a bunch of bumper cars racing through. This fight is filled to the brim with danger and I have trouble tracking everything, resulting in a few hits from the Titan monster. I find constant dodging is always a great friend, especially since countering is bound to get me whacked regardless with the Titan and Mr. Hammer in the fight. I avoid the Titan long enough to bring everyone else down before finishing him. But of course, like so many boss fights before it, winning means losing in the cinematic scene, as a ton of rubble pins me down. Talia shows up out of nowhere in the nick of time and convinces the Joker to spare me in exchange for immortality. This seems as good a time as any for a little bat nap, and I find myself as Catwoman again. Apparently she's been talking with Poison Ivy this entire time, which I'm pretty sure has been a good deal of hours, but it pays off and Ivy agrees to help break into the vault. So talking things out is far more effective than punching everyone I meet, you say? Nah, it takes far too long. Breaking into the vault, I knock out only a single guard before getting spotted. I attempt to escape, get confused by the layout, and before I know it, I'm dead. Aren't I Catwoman? Where are the other 8 lives to keep me going? It's crazy how 6 seconds of stupidity can knock me back 11 hours. Nothing to do but start anew. Tired of being reckless, I'm much more careful, taking down Deathstroke, Copperhead, Bane, and Firefly, all without taking damage. In fact, I make it all the way to the second to last fight in the game before I take a hit by an enforcer doing a speedy 180 charge. The same enforcer grabs me a second later while I'm in the middle of a counter, but I break free before hitting the wall. Its eerie glitches from being stunned, to hitting me, to back to being stunned, making it the only half hit as it was damage caused by a glitch. Bane's final boss fight is a breeze, and I find myself 8 years later in the Asylum. Asylum's first 3 quarters are no trouble, but its final quarter knocks me around quite a few times. Back in City, this is the first time I managed to beat Grundy with no damage, as I carefully watch for his attacks, taking my time to blow his generators up. Raish and Mr. Freeze also go down with no trouble, all the damage I receive being from random thugs along the way. It's always fun kicking a boss's butt, only to get randomly punched by some no-name thug a minute later. Really keeps you humble. I admit it is very satisfying to build a big combo when facing off against the Joker and his men again. I find taking out Mr. Hammer right away before the Titan monster arrives helps a ton, and using Explosive Gel to stun the Titan is far easier than trying to use your cape to stun it. Explosives really are the answer to everything, aren't they? With Joker down, I find myself back as Catwoman, which is a state of pure paranoia. Just in case, I've invested in upgrades for her armor against guns, and it pays off here as I catch a few shotgun shells to the chest. I had no idea that guy had peripheral vision. What a rare quality. Thankfully, the last 2 go down easily on their own, and I'm able to collect 2 briefcases that glow with a gold light. I assume I'm stealing flashlights, which will be really handy since it's always nighttime. A very well-placed camera shows me Batman pinned down, and I'm forced to choose between flashlights or him. Easy choice, right? Batman owns a massive flashlight. It makes more sense to save him, and he might give it to me as thanks. Having been saved by Catwoman, I find the city's now getting blown to pieces by Hugo Strange's men. Turns out Strange's whole plan has been to murder every single criminal and be hailed a hero. Batman has a no-kill rule, and Hugo has a kill absolutely everyone rule. There's a bit of a conflict there, as you can guess, so I have to grapple to a bunch of the murderous helicopters so I can get the codes to break into Strange's tower, which is extremely dangerous, and when one spots me, I have to glide with all I have to escape before it tears me to shreds. This challenge has made it so I'm probably more worried than Batman himself is of getting shot by that helicopter. I somehow managed to lose it, get the codes, and break into Strange's tower. Strange has plenty of men between me and him, but they don't provide any real resistance. Reaching Strange, Batman is finally able to put their heads together to think of a better solution for Arkham. One less explodey and death-filled. Perhaps he'd have gotten through to him if Raish didn't pop back up and stab Strange. Well then. Turns out Raish has been behind everything, and I prepare for another boss battle. No need though, as Strange really likes the explodey option still, blowing up the tower and sending us flying. I worry about Raish falling to his death, but thankfully some spikes break his fall. Hey, Raish? Buddy, you there? Huh. This electricity trick worked on Bane 8 years ago. Not sure why it's not working on you. Could be the sword sticking out your chest. I'm not a doctor, but that might be it. Leaving Raish to get his beauty sleep, I have one final job to do. Take down the Joker and save Talia. Frick. Talia, I have the one rule. What is with this family and stabbing all my major foes? I was supposed to punch Joker for eternity. Now what am I gonna do with my life? Oh look, he's fine. It's just my old shape-shifting friend Clayface who got stabbed. Clayface is the final boss fight, and at first everything goes pretty smoothly. Obviously, it doesn't stay that way. He spews himself all over me, then crushes me with his hammer hands before I finally manage to cut him down into little pieces. It doesn't end there, because like any good final boss, he has a second stage, which sadly involves him spitting on me a lot while I battle his baby clay monsters. Getting spat on is not how I imagine this final fight. But to be fair, my own move is to chuck endless ice grenades at him. Not sure how the heck I have this many, but I guess it's just a really, really big belt. With a few more slices of the sword, huzzah! Arkham City has been beat without dying. This makes 3 of 4 games beaten, leaving only Arkham Knight remaining. This final city run took me 3 hours 55 minutes to beat, with 2 more failures gained, moving my total failures up to 13 for the entire challenge. 26.5 hits is where I sit at the end of Arkham City. The hardest part of City would have to be the Catwoman sections, with my preference for gadget combat being reduced heavily, and her dodge leaving plenty to be desired. Her stealth was even more difficult, with a worse X-ray vision and far less options gadget-wise. Ra's al Ghul's fight and Mr. Freeze's fight tie for the easiest part of the game. Both were fun, but not particularly dangerous if you know what you're doing, which I sometimes do. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to leave a like, or if you haven't, mayhaps subscribe? It makes all the hits to the noggin more worth it for sure. Regardless, I hope you all enjoyed, and that I see you here next time to wrap up the challenge. Now go put together a citywide prison of your own. Have fun, friends!